They're back! You asked for it, folks, and rLounge delivers. It's like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, but real life. Is it possible to commit your whole family? Let's find out today on rLounge. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law showed up to Christmas at my house when they knew they were unwelcome. I was trying to keep things to 2 posts, but I realized while compiling everything that part 2 was just too dang long, so I've divided it into a part 3. For those who commented in a mass to get cameras, I will, when I can afford it. I'm still in financial recovery from buying a house last year, and as far as I know, good cameras need a decent computer to record to, and I don't have anything more than a 3-year-old laptop that runs Windows 10. Yes, I'm aware of doorbell cams. That will be the first kind I get. For those who kept saying that I should have just gotten my brother and sister-in-law arrested, the only reason I didn't was because they are parents. Their kids need them. And if Dan was arrested, he'd likely lose his job. And without that, his family has no money. And sister-in-law has an only months-old baby right now. Neither of them need to end up in jail. But you don't need jail for revenge. Police can help, yes, but I got payback without filing a police report. Would I be this merciful again? More than likely not, and they know it. I decided to wait on making an account and posting until after the new year, just in case more stuff happened. And it did. As previous readers know, my sister-in-law was making passive-aggressive posts on social media that were obviously directed at me, especially after sister-in-law had her 4th baby in November. She was posting the same repetitive nonsense over and over again. She just found semi-clever ways of rewording it. But she pretty much kept regurgitating that she was tired of living with my parents, that there isn't enough space, she needs her own house, blah blah blah. I know I sound dismissive, but live through what I have with these people and you'd be ready to sarcastically play tiny violins in front of them too. They're just that bad. And since I waited until January to make an account, more happened, just like I thought. I stated before that I'd invited half the family for a Christmas Eve party at my house, and everyone I invited all came, even though it was a fairly long drive of around 3 to 4 hours for them. But they wanted to come and show me their support. I was praised by them a lot for how hard I'd worked to get a house on my own, and that they were sorry for everything I'd went through. I was asked why I didn't just take my camper and drive the 3 hours back to them, instead of living pretty much homeless for so long. And I had to sheepishly admit that I was very attached to living around here, and I had my best employment opportunities in this area. My hometown doesn't have a lot of great job opportunities in my field, if any at all, and I wanted to make my own way as much as I could. An answer they overall accepted. We moved on to having a rather nice party, the best I've been in years. Some relatives even brought CDs of great Christmas albums, and I have to say, the one my uncle brought of Ray Charles was my favorite. He sings Christmas songs like no one else I've ever heard. It was a grand and happy time. I felt like, for once, I could just forget my past issues and enjoy the moment. But I wouldn't be writing this if it had stayed that way. About 2 hours into the party, you know who showed up. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law popped in trying to look all smiles. They didn't even knock, just walked right in my front door like they were meant to be there. I shut off the music and told them to leave immediately. They begged to stay and say they brought gifts. One of my uncles stood up and yelled at them before I got another chance to speak, and he said they don't deserve to be in my home or my life after the crap they tried to pull months earlier. And he was backed up by several other relatives. Mind you, this guy is my mother's brother, and he used to love her to pieces until he found out about the crap that went on between me and my parents. My grandparents, mother's parents, as old as they are, hurriedly got in between us and said to my parents that if they want to make amends with me, it's far too soon. And they've never been more disappointed in them than they were this past year. They'd hidden their favoritism for my brother from prying eyes for a long time, but no one was fooled anymore, and they needed to make a serious effort to try and actually treat me like a son if they ever wanted to be in my life again. Then they turned to Dan and sister-in-law and said they've seen the repetitive nonsense sister-in-law keeps posting about. They're tired of it, and to just let it go already. My house will not become their new home. Sister-in-law went back to her old standard of crying and had a pity party about how she should be the one living here and not me. She plopped down on a chair to have a tantrum and say it wasn't fair I got this house to myself when I have no family of my own. And she has 4 kids that need more space. And she just wanted a better place to live in and feel like a real mom. It was petty of me, but I loudly pointed out that she sucks as a mother because she lets my mother do most of the parenting while she sits on her butt all day drinking, playing on her phone, or going out and spending all of Dan's money. And she has the nerve to complain about it. I even joked that I'm surprised her baby doesn't get drunk from her breast milk since she drinks so much booze, which I admit went a bit too far as I got some stares. and sister-in-law demanded to know if I was calling her a bad mom. I said the evidence speaks for itself, and if she wanted to be able to afford to move out of my parents' house someday, then she needs to put her college degree to some use, get a job, and learn to save money. My mother already does most of the childcare for my brother's kids anyway, so she'd have plenty of time after her baby gets a little older. My brother's eldest kid, who's 7 years old, ran up to start kicking and screaming at me for yelling at his mom, and he kept at me about how his mom said that I was the bad guy who made her cry and didn't let them live here. That's when my brother grabbed his son to pull him away, but all the other relatives jumped back in, and this sort of turned into a family intervention against my sister-in-law and brother. She was crying. Her new baby was crying. Her kids were crying. Hell, even Dan was very nearly in tears from the verbal lashing he was being assaulted with. He ended up just sitting on the ottoman I keep shoes in by the front door and looking like a complete wreck. He couldn't look anyone in the eye. He couldn't even say 2 words to me. Now with a whole house filled with angry people ready to judge him if he tried to let out his inner golden child again. If they weren't there to get in his way, I'd bet this would have ended up a repeat of when he tried to order me around to try and take my house months earlier. By this point, though, he'd been so thoroughly humiliated that his and my parents' reputation in the family was completely destroyed because the masks were all now off. Soon after my parents, brother and sister-in-law all left in defeat. The party resumed and we all avoided speaking of what just happened for the rest of the evening. Since most of the adults had been drinking, everyone stayed the night at my house. I even let some of them sleep in the camper so there'd be enough space. I admit, it also makes a good guest house. My relatives all wanted a tour of it earlier as well. And then they said they couldn't believe I'd been living in it for around 2 years. I got a lot of questions about it, like what summer and winter was like, and so on. I was up earlier than everyone else Christmas morning and had a fresh pot of coffee and some ibuprofen for those spiked eggnog hangovers a few of them had. I was complimented on being a way nicer host than my parents ever were, and we all agreed to do this again next Christmas. After Christmas, sister-in-law did finally stop making posts that were obvious digs at me and deleted all the old ones as well. But shortly after the new year, she more recently made a new post complaining about how she tried to convince my parents to get a camper like I did, so it could be set up in the backyard so Dan and his family could use the whole house as their family home. Well, a taste of one's own medicine is never fun, because my parents turned that idea down. Vehemently, I hear. No one is going to push them out of their own home, let alone their master bedroom. The post was only up for a couple of days before sister-in-law removed it, and she has hardly posted anything since then. She loves to complain, but if a tree falls and no one is around to hear it, can it still complain? Sister-in-law, I guess, has realized there's no point in doing it when no one hears her anymore. And Dan can't afford to move his family out on his salary alone anytime soon. If they end up expecting another child in the next few years, I won't be surprised. Things mellowed down for me since then, and I've even invited friends over for a poker night. I suck at poker because I can never remember a dang thing about it. But so what? We get to drink beer and eat junk food while being merry idiots. We all loaded up on Whoppers from Burger King and just had at it at the best way 4 grown men can when they just want to have a good, unadulterated time and get pissed drunk. I think maybe around summer, I'll look into possibly dating someone. I'm not exactly getting younger here. Fingers crossed that goes well. My camper just sits idle in my yard now, and I admit, there were some days I went out there just to spend time in it. I did live in it for 2 years. It's like my second home, and maybe one day I'll actually get to use it for camping, like it was meant to be. I've never been camping. My parents considered it a waste of time, so it'd be a completely new experience for me. This pretty much marks the end of what happened. My parents, brother, and sister-in-law have all been staying very clear of me. In fact, they seem to have gone back to acting like I don't exist, like they did before I bought a house. Not like that bothers me at all. It's better that way. But they'll inevitably come back in some way. I know they will. I just wonder what kind of stupid thing they'll do next. If anything notable like this ever happens again, I'll make another post, if this account is still active. Let's see what the community thinks so far. Old Opinionated Lady says, next time you win a $2 lottery ticket, post on your social media that you won the lottery. That one Broad 06 chimes in, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of your extended family. You absolutely can't pick who you were born to, but you can pick who's important and who you spend time with. Between your extended family, your friends, and a possible future romantic relationship, I hope the rest of your days are full of joy and peace. Coming from an abusive family, I know how difficult it is to set boundaries and stand by them. You've done a phenomenal job. You've made a phenomenal life for yourself, OP. CA Og Girl says, God willing, this is the last you'll have to suffer with them. Daily Lily 61 chimes in, Amen. They'll all be turning on each other now, but as long as they're leaving the OP alone, so much the better. Accomplished Rain 169 has this to say. Agree. What I don't understand is that little brother lives in your parents' house. He's probably not paying rent, utilities, or food. So where's his money going? It is my understanding that he's been living there, rent-free, for at least 7 years. More than enough time to save up for a nice down payment on his own house. If you ever have the unfortunate chance to meet him again, remind him of that. Tell him that if you can do it, so can he. Tell him it's time to grow the hell up and quit expecting others to support his sorry self. Good luck. Rainier Chaos says, the wife, sister-in-law, drinks and shops most of it away. I'm guessing his minivan is newer, insurance isn't cheap, average car payment is around $600 a month, full coverage if it's financed, another $150 to $300 a month depending on their driving record. Plus, gas is like $3.50, $4 a gallon, and minivans can eat a lot of it. Probably spending $600 a month in gas. Plus groceries, toiletries, clothes, formula. She probably isn't breastfeeding, and even if she is, a lot of people supplement. Shoes, maintenance on the van, registration of the van, inspections, depending on where they live, of the van, doctor's appointments, health insurance. I mean, he has 4 kids under 8 years old. A 7-year-old, oldest, 5 or 6-year-old, a 3 or 4-year-old, and a newborn. That's 4 car seats at around $100 to $150 a pop. Probably a stroller or 2, or a wagon to cart them around, or a stroller and a wagon. There's another $100 to $200 plus for the stroller and $50 to $150 for the wagon, plus diaper bag and wipes and diapers. At least 2 of them are in disposable underpants, diapers, pull-ups, and the packages get smaller and stay just as expensive as the sizes get bigger. A box of diapers, I don't know, maybe 80 diapers, is between $25 and $50, and they'll use roughly 2 to 4 a month, so $200 a month, plus school supplies for the 2 oldest kids. If they ever use daycare, that's going to be like, I don't know, babies are triple what potty-trained kids are, so probably $700 a week. Using my own knowledge of what it costs here for a week of 2 kids with childcare assistance can vary from $100 for 2 kids, and that's strictly before and after school care, up to $300 a week per kid, without assistance plus registration fees, and summer costs 2 to 3 times as much as the registration fees are due to 2 to 3 times per year, and vary from $20 per kid up to $300 per kid. So yeah, money is basically evaporating out of his account before it can even trickle in, because his wife refuses to even try to work, and he's used to getting everything he wants regardless of his money or lack thereof situation, and they keep reproducing in a house with no privacy and not doing anything to mitigate their circumstances whatsoever. Pipit04 says this, I was eagerly waiting for this update. I'm so sorry you've had to go through all this, but it sounds like you're really getting to enjoy your new house, and I'm really glad the rest of the family has your back. By the way, you're a good storyteller. Have you ever considered writing? I think you've got a talent, especially since writing about all this probably wasn't easy. Many Books 91 has our last comment. You're a bigger person than me. On that post where she wanted to kick your parents out of their own house, I would have commented, do it for Dan. But I'm a witch, so... Wow. Your sister really does have a set of balls on her to try to kick your parents out of their own house. Who the hell does she really think she is? It's unfortunate that your brother and your parents have enabled her and let her get away with this behavior for so long. Not that she's the only one with the problems here, but my goodness. And, most importantly, to come over uninvited to Christmas at a place that they literally broke into? You have to be some level of crazy and psychotic to do that. And to do it and think that the rest of the people there wouldn't say anything? Honestly, they did it to themselves. You really didn't have to lift a finger. It's refreshing to know that there are so many people on your side who can see past the BS. You're absolutely right that they will inevitably return. But until then, relish in the moment, keep marching to the beat of your own drum, and live your life the way you want to. We'll be here for you when they decide to act the fool again. What would you have done if you saw them walk through the door? Do you think OP handled himself well? What do you think the rest of his family's reaction to the cuckoo birds? Thank you for joining us today on rLounge for part 2 of this Nuthouse saga. Before you go, be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you have something you want to say regarding today's content, share that with us in the comments below.